Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm Robert Kalin here with Mike Newman and a very special guest. And I don't know about you guys, but my mind sometimes just goes a little crazy. I have thoughts that don't necessarily make sense. I am trying to do a lot of things all the time. If that resonates with you, our guest here today is going to inspire you, challenge you, and give you some awesome tactics. This is super cool to have you here, Morgan.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, Morgan, thanks for being with us today. Some of you, we had shared in an earlier podcast about some of the work Morgan had done about having a heart of gratitude and an exercise that she had out there, and we sent or made the link happen for you with that. And so I thought it'd be great if we could bring her on and hear some of her great wisdom and learning. And she's a recent published author of a book now called Think Wild, Volume 1. And so Volume 2 is coming. It's about the tactics that we can use to help ourselves be better thinkers and manage our stress and our emotions and all those things that come with it. I've known Morgan for a number of years. We're both founding members in the John Maxwell team, and Morgan, along with her sister Megan and her mom and her brother, were all part of the group when we first started. And now there's over 40,000 of us across the world. And so, Morgan, great to have you with us, and just love to have you start us off maybe with a little bit about what made you write the book.
Oh, thanks. It is great to be with you today. Honestly, the community, even when we're not talking, is there. And I think that mental growth community, knowing you have people to bounce ideas off of, people who are cheering for you and contributing to your growth, has been huge for me. I think writing this book is something I've been trying to do since I was really younger than I had any ideas worth sharing. I've just always loved to write. But recently in 2020, my hearing took a sudden change and I had major neurological challenges. And thinking went from being something very easy for me to do to something very challenging for me to do. And it just made it very meaningful to figure out practical ways we could understand what our brain is doing and support our brain in giving us the life, the productivity, and the connectivity that we need. I'm a full-time coach. I've been coaching for many years now, over a decade. And the humans I work with are trying to accomplish big things. They're trying to fulfill their purpose or help people. They're doing things that matter. Anytime you do something that matters, anxiety and stress shows up. It's the nature of it. So that's why I wanted to help everyone think wild and have some practical things they can use to keep taking their brave action every day.
Yeah.
I love that, because I think, our listeners out there are all people that you just described. They're people that have purpose, that matter, that are doing things that matter. And I'm sure they're going to be able to relate to some of the things that you're going to talk about today. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Thank you, me too.
Yeah.
When Morgan was kind enough to send me one of her first copies of the book, and actually did a really special thing at the end for some of us that were early on. And so I actually have her handwritten notes about some really great things that she had to say about me and how I've been in touch with her over the years, and just always excited to see someone do something outside of their comfort zone and grow and do great things. In the book, you start out with an example that resonated so clearly with me, because I'm a kind of a hands-on person and do a lot of projects around my house. And you have the story of the workbench and the clutter that happens or can happen on a workbench. And so maybe I think that's a great jumping off place about how our mind sometimes gets all cluttered up. And
Absolutely.
talk about that a little bit for us.
Well, the mental workbench image was one I got learning from Daniel Levitin, who's an expert on how the brain works. And he talks about how different things that you're focused on actually remodel and give different access to part of your brain. And it's a workbench that is made up of all the thoughts. Your working memory are all the thoughts you're thinking, stuff that you have to keep in mind to accomplish anything. Anything you're feeling is on your mental workbench. Any idea you have or something you're trying to accomplish, or even something you're enjoying, the ability to enjoy life happens on your mental workbench as well. Looking at how stress affects your mental workbench, you notice that the care and keeping of your physical space is very similar to the care and keeping of your mental space. And I found it encouraging on the difficult days when my sensory disorder made it very hard to do anything with my workbench. I felt like my brain's workbench got about this big. I found it very encouraging to learn how to build my workbench up, and to process what the clutter that arrives on the workbench so that I have a space to think thoughts and serve my purpose. So I'm glad you like that visual. I know it helped me as well.
So, Morgan, I have about 73 tabs open on my computer right now.
I've seen it. That's no kidding. Yeah.
I
It
believe
may
you.
be more. It may be more tabs. I'm feeling a little convicted.
No judgment.
What should I do to process through?
Well, I will say the two major approaches to the mental workbench is if it's very cluttered, you got to notice what kind of clutter it is. If it feels like noise can be something that means the things that you have around you aren't contained well. And that's something we actually talk about later in the book. Maybe we could kind of run into that another time. But I talk about how black boxes are safe places to keep things we need. But they're black boxes because they have a safe bottom and a lid. And the stuff we need access to, but we aren't working on, needs a safe place to be so that it can leave the workbench. So for you, it might be a matter of understanding you don't feel safe maybe letting things out of your sight.
Yeah.
Maybe you keep them around so that you don't forget what they are. Does
You're
that sound
100%.
fair?
That is like nail on the head. So for me, I'm visual.
Yeah.
And if I don't see it, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
And so I have my tabs open so that I can remember all the little things that I have to accomplish or do, or it's out of sight, out of mind, 100%. That's good.
You know, for you, just as a practical thing, because you're not alone. You're probably a weirdo in your own way. You're very unique.
100%.
But this is a very frequent problem that creatives and busy people often have. So something I actually stole from Cal Newport. He's written all kinds of great stuff. He's the deep work guy. If you like deep work. He has this technique of, he calls it working memory. He titles a document workingmemory.txt, right? And he has that top of mind, like it'd be on his desktop or top of his file organization. I stole that idea and I use like a Google Doc so I can have links. So I would keep that document in front of me all the time.
Yeah.
Where I don't have to dig for it.
Yep.
But I would, if you probably have a section like creative inspiration, things I'm working on right now. Remember to do this today. Put your remember to do this today at the top, right? Toss things in there, right? There's something that happens when you tell yourself, I am not too busy to get myself a little organized. And you're a visual person who wants to keep things in front of yourself. Keep things in front of yourself, but contain them in a way that gives you freedom from them. So if you collapse all of your open windows.
Don't even talk about this.
I don't mean that. I mean,
creating stress and anxiety.
we'll fix that in a second.
Yeah.
Just imagine you pasted the link to all your open windows into your open windows section of your working memory, right? You could click and open them all up in a second, right? but then that space would be cleared. Now, you may not need that space cleared to feel mental space, but you could use a strategy that creates depth and containment, so that you have you want to line up your black boxes. I actually use like a 5 file. The experts seem to think 5 to 10 files wide is the widest that your brain can manage easily and with clarity. For cognitive load, keeping it down to like 5 to 8 is really optimal for most of us. As a visual person, you may find 10 works for you. You can experiment with it, but 10's the absolute max. So if you find you want a little more sense of I'm on top of things, you might think about trying to come into that sweet spot and use a black box to group things in a safe place where you know right where to get them. You have to kind of wrangle those and figure out what you want those to be, but can free you up a bit.
That's great.
Just a thought.
Yeah, I love it. Get a
Because you have a
coaching
good
session and a
problem.
podcast.
You have what I would call a quality problem. And when you have a lot of inspiration that you're trying to manage and not forget, that's a problem. But it's a quality problem, right?
Yeah, I love that.
So.
And I will say, managing it all, I've used the Full Focus Planner for about a year and a half, actually, pretty solidly, which helps me be able to do like that focus. I'm going to manage this today, which is
to visualize it.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly.
In a more contained way. Yep. That's beautiful.
So Morgan, in the book, you talk about how to capture your thoughts on a card, and kind of, those random things that come flying through our head and we write them down, but then we don't remember where we wrote them down at, and we spend an hour trying to find what it was. I saw this, and when I was reading it, I went, wow, I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Walk us through kind of how this works and what the benefits would be to, having those thought cards, and maybe put them to the black box too.
Absolutely, could be. So the first version of cards that I ever used, I got from David Allen. I don't know if either of you guys love David Allen, but I was a high school geek. I loved his card system where you would empty your head of all the things you needed to do by making a discrete piece of paper, card or whatever, to represent the thing that needed to be done. And it was his way of making the mental stuff concrete so that it could be physically managed. As soon as something is physical, it leaves your mental workbench in a different way. And I see Robert nodding because it's like, yeah, you can get your hands around it. You can move it around. Some of the mental fatigue goes down because you're not actually using there are different brain functions like your phonological loop that's actually repeating the words to you to keep it in your working memory. Doesn't have to do it anymore. Just writing it down gives you that relief. But sometimes, so actions can be written down in that way, and that can really help. This card tactic I've been focused on lately is for a specific kind of thought, and it's the circular thought. It's the thought that keeps haunting you. It keeps coming back and maybe interrupting what you're doing to yell at you about things. They're brain notifications. And your brain notifications, when a brain notification goes off, it enters your mind, the thought slams on the center of your mental workbench, and it knocks whatever else you're working on aside. And that can be discouraging, and it's definitely draining. Reduces your productivity at the least. So circular thoughts keep coming back. They don't land like, oh, the doorbell just rang, I better check the door, and then it's over. It's, I have so much to do. I have so much to do. That one hits me sometimes. Or, why am I doing this? Or sometimes the circular thoughts are about other people. So-and-so's mad at me. Why was this person upset? Why does this have to be this way? This shouldn't be so hard. That's one of the common ones that can circulate and keep interrupting us. So I use the card system to make physical those circular thoughts and write them down. And if I was feeling very overwhelmed, usually there are a bunch of thoughts interrupting me. So I would sit flip over the blank side of a stack of cards, and I would write each thought on the blank side and just stack them. The first thing might be a big important thing. I got to get my books ready for taxes. And the next thing might be, oh, my sister's birthday's coming up. And the next one might be, oh, that Amazon nail polish I bought. This is terrible. I got to make them give me my money back, right? So nail polish is just an action that needs to be managed. But, so-and-so's mad at me is a thought that I can't do. I can't do so-and-so is mad at me. I need to deal with it in a different way. So I categorize, once you get the thought written down, you can flip it over and say, is this something I need to figure out? Something I would strategize? Is this something I need to do, take action on? Or is it something I need to rethink? So-and-so's mad at me, or I have too much to do. Might be something I need to rethink. And rethinking. So for you guys, I mean, you have thoughts that recur. Is there anything you would say maybe is a false thought that sometimes can come up, that you'd like to give an example for us to use today? Not to throw you under the bus.
Well, I suppose for me, we talked before this episode. I had shared you're going to drop the ball as kind of a circular thought that I had that was kind of repeating. But another one that kind of goes in line with that, which is other people have said you're doing too much. And it becomes a recurring thought in my mind of like, I'm doing too much, you're going to drop the ball.
Yep.
Where I've had to rethink, is that true? Or do I need to build a team that can handle all the things that I'm doing rather than everything needs to be done by me?
Yep. That's a great example. Thank you. I'm writing on my little card so we can use it. So you're doing too much. I would have written it on the white side of the card. Flip it over and say, okay, first off, you're doing too much. First thing we do is we say, is that the heart of it? So maybe your brain says you're doing too much, but it's someone else's words. So maybe the thought under it is, people think I shouldn't try so hard, or it might be a little different. I need more help if I'm going to do what I'm meant to do. Right? Maybe that's the thought inside of you're doing too much. I don't have the help I need to do what I'm supposed to do. If it's okay, we'll use that as an example. So I don't have enough help. And my coaching clients are trying to do a lot of things. A lot of them have families and extracurricular volunteer commitments, and this is something they deal with a lot. So it resonates with me. I don't have enough help. If you're going to challenge that thought, one of the best ways to do it isn't to say, is this right or is this wrong, but to use what the trans-theoretical model of change developers call cognitive countering. So it's the ABCDs of behavior change. And this is a belief: I don't have enough help, right, to do what I want to do. Because it is a belief, we want to say, what are the activating events? What was happening that made me feel like I don't have enough time to do what I don't have enough help to do what I'm supposed to do? What's an example of an activating event? It could be, and I'll just pull from my experience to not throw you under the bus. You've been very generous, Robert. But it could be I was late to a session with my coaching client. I was late picking up my kids from work or from school a couple of times this week. That was the third time I was the last parent to pick up my kids at pickup. That's the activating event, right? That makes me go, man, I just don't have enough help. Okay. So activating event, late with kids, late at other things, and maybe forgetting stuff. And I would write all those by A. B then is beliefs. Now, there are beliefs inside of that thought. I don't have enough help to do what I'm supposed to do. And one of those beliefs could be, if I'm doing the right thing, I won't be tired. Right? Like maybe I'm tired And I think I must be doing it wrong. Like, is my mindset wrong? Am I right? Do I not have the tools I need? I wouldn't be tired if I had enough help. All right, that might be a belief.
Shouldn't be this hard.
Shouldn't be this hard. Yes, it shouldn't be this. Let's actually use that one, because that's a really good one that will come up for anyone doing this exercise very long. It shouldn't be this hard. We're gonna use that belief. And then let's do C for it shouldn't be that hard. So if I think it shouldn't be this hard, a competitive fitness science shows that as soon as we feel that something shouldn't be hard, it becomes harder. We know that, right? One of the consequences is it makes us tired.
Yep.
It makes us resent others. Shouldn't be this hard. Kind of consequence. I feel self-pity. And honestly, self-pity feels gross. None of us like to feel self-pity. So I'm going to write on mine, self-pity, gross. It's good when you write your consequences that you make it real to you. It's like, what is this doing to me when I really feel like it shouldn't be this hard? Okay. And then D is disputing. And this is the important part. This is where we start to get freedom. Is we have to find ways to challenge the belief and say, it shouldn't be this hard, and say, what is it that makes me believe important things should be easy? What is it about easy that seems necessary? It shouldn't be hard. Why? And so you might dispute it by saying, well, who do I admire the most? And you name a few people and you say, every single one of them I admire for something they did in spite of it being hard, not when it was easy. Okay. So that's part of the dispute. It's going to make something happen, right? And you write these disputes. For other things, one of the more challenging beliefs to deal with sometimes is some of the people who've been kind enough to share their lives with me will have a belief that says, I'm not worth enough. And it's a belief, a lie that they want to challenge in their life. And, to challenge those kinds of things, you have to build up evidence. Another is, I can't do this. I can't do this. If you want to build up evidence, you go shopping in your memory. You may even have to get a buddy, especially if you're discouraged. You get a buddy to do this with you and say, my brain is saying I can't do this. Can you help me remember times when I've accomplished similar things or other hard things? Can you help me make a list? Because discouragement's serious. And then you write those disputes down. And that's the cognitive countering process, A, B, C, D. And that is a process that takes some work as you're getting used to it. But over time, if you do this enough, you'll find yourself doing it in your head. And it's changed my life. At Wild and Brave, we add S, which I call step out. Now, when you've disputed a belief, so you say you're disputing that it shouldn't be so hard by recognizing people who've done meaningful things that you admire, they overcame, it was hard for them. So what's an action I could take to remind me of that dispute, that good argument? Maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some articles of people I admire together and make a plan that when next time I feel like it shouldn't be so hard, I'm going to open that file and I'm going to read about people who inspire me. It's a step I can take. So you need something you can do, a brave action to kind of exit the thought loop. That's kind of a fast overview. Hope I didn't take too long there. Sorry.
Well, no, that's really helpful, Morgan, to have some strategies, some practical things. And those of you that have been listening and want to dive deeper into that, go purchase Morgan's book, Think Wild, And she will lead you just in this same type of conversation in her book. I've been enjoying reading it, and you've challenged my thinking in a lot of different ways. And we'd love to have you back on the podcast again in the future when time allows, and maybe talk with us about executive. Okay, I just forgot it. Anyway, the
Your executive
function of our
function.
mind, and how we can control those types of actions too, because these are really practical. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's been so awesome hearing from you, Morgan, especially the coaching session that I just received. You guys, you're welcome.
You were such a good sport.
Here's what I want to do. I want to put your link in the comments or in the description below so that people can go there, make it easy to buy your book, to get in touch with you. How could they get in touch with you if they want to right now, if they're listening and they're,
Absolutely. You can email me through my website. I'm Morgan at wildandbrave.com. You can shoot me an email. And if you want to experience coaching and be put on the spot like Robert in a private setting, you can always get a free coaching session with me from my website, wildandbrave.com.
All right.
I love it.
Well, thanks, Morgan. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us.
Honored to be here.
All right, you guys. Well, that's it for the Elevate podcast today. Until next week. Until then, we'll see you. God bless.
Right. Take care.
Thank you for joining us. Our hope is this episode has been helpful for you today. If it's impacted you in some way, we encourage you to share it with someone. To receive a direct notification of our next episode, click the follow button on your favorite app or platform. You can also watch each episode on YouTube. The links are in the description. If you want to connect with us on a deeper level, go to countercultureleadership.com/resources. We'll see you next week on the Elevate Podcast.